Aloha and Hoover. This video goes along with second grade skateboard design project. As I mentioned in the instructions, this project's pretty near and dear to my heart. I grew up skateboarding and still really like it. Part of it, besides the actual part of skateboarding, was the images painted or printed on the bottom of the skateboards. So I think it's really fun to do in the springtime. We do a skateboard design. I show you how we're going to cut out the skateboard deck shape on paper, and then you can draw, paint, whatever it is that you want on the bottom. That's kind of the beauty and the fun of it, is that there's really no rules on what could be on the back of it. So think about it. You can make a couple of these. You don't have to obviously stick with the first one that you make, but you're going to need 2 pieces of paper for this and scissors to make your tracer. Okay? All right, let me bring you in here. All right, so I have my 2 pieces of paper. First thing, you want to make sure that the paper you're making your tracer with is not bigger than the paper you're going to draw it on. Okay, if they're the same size, it's fine because it's going to get a little smaller when you cut these. But you don't want to end up with a giant tracer and a small piece of paper. Okay, so let's make our tracer first. First thing what I'm going to do is fold this paper in half this way. Okay, and it doesn't, you want to get as close as you can, the edges nice and neat, but we're going to be cutting it, so it's not going to be the end of the world if it's a little bit different. Alright, so the shape of a skateboard is, I'll just draw it on here. Okay, you have the straight sides, and then there's the rounded tail, what they call the tail of it, and then the rounded nose. Okay, or a popsicle shape, is what they're called now. So, and then your wheels would be bolted here and here and here. We're just focusing on the shape, the outside shape of it. Okay, we're not drawing wheels or anything like that, because then your image is painted on here and the wheels go on top of that. We're doing it without the wheels, so it's just like a deck that is ready to be built. So I have this is the shape I'm shooting for. So what we're going to do is use our paper. We're going to cut, draw it here. You're going to want to draw and cut on this side of the paper, the folded edge. So when you open it, you'll have your shape of your skateboard. Now you can't use the whole thing in this sense. If I cut all the way out here, you got to think about how wide it's going to be. That would be too much. So it's relatively narrow, and you can always start a little bigger because you can always trim it down, if it's too big or if you don't get your bends right. Because there's not really a point. It's kind of like a nice, it's not flat either, it's just rounded. So what I'm going to do is start, I have something drawn like this. I'm going to start here. Again, if you're not totally sure, start with it more of a point, because then you can always go back and trim it. So I come here, come down, try to keep this line as straight as possible, and match your curves coming back again. Leave it a little pointy, and by that I mean go at an angle like this. If I come in, it's going to be more flat, and then go the other way. So then I can open it up and see how I feel about that as far as like a skateboard shape. I think that's pretty good. I might trim that. See how there's that little point here? I can trim that off a little bit. It might be a little wide in here too, to be honest. So I'm going to trim that edge. Now I'm going to bring this one in a little bit so it's a little more flat. Okay, there we go. So I like that one. Then take your new piece of paper, lay your tracer on it here so that it fits. The only reason why we're not drawing directly on this paper is because the tracer is because we folded it in half. So take your pencil. If you want to cut out your skateboard after it's finished, that's totally fine. But this way, you won't have a big fold down the middle of your paper. Take your time to trace it. Okay, fix any edges. Like that one. Again, if you're going to cut it out, it won't matter, but I'm going to fix it now. Okay, so now I have the bottom of my skateboard ready to go to draw whatever it is that you want on it. Again, there's no right or wrong, so whatever you want to make. I always do my example in this one. I'm going to draw like a skull and flames, just because I always think it looks pretty awesome. But also maybe I'll draw over here a little unicorn, just so we have like the full kind of spectrum of images. So if I'll make a skull, one thing I want to think about is the top of the skull, like the head shape. If you start with a circle and then down where the jaw is squared off, if you make the kind of like a little square here at the bottom. Okay, so I'll start with the eyes. They're going to come into about here. The other one is going to be over here with this downward line. This one comes across. The nose, cheekbones, come in, jawbone, back of the skull here. I usually make mine a little extended, and then I don't draw the bottom jaw, just kind of like the look I like. So I've got my skull here. Erase some of those, we can see what's going on. Okay, so I've got my skull here, and then maybe going off on the side, it's going to be my flames. Drawing flames, they kind of want to curve up, and they end at a point. And to end them at a point, start where that first line ended, and then follow that line back, just getting gradually a little bit wider, and you can make some bumps and some irregularities. So maybe that one's going to be here. Then there's usually a second tier, meaning another like row of flames or colors that are going to be in here. Okay, so I have that. I'm going to actually adjust that line because I feel like that makes it look like it's part of the jaw, which I don't like. So that one's going to come there. Okay, so I'd have my skeleton or my skull drawn here. If I want to do a unicorn over here, this one, if you ever asked me for in class to draw it, this is probably the same one that I've drawn. I start with the horn of the unicorn. Just make a kind of pointy cone. Draw the forehead, it comes down. I draw basically right across from where the horn is, the first ear, which is kind of like that little rounded point. Teardrop shape, another one for the other side. Come down for where the eyes might be. The nose has a little bump on the end like a horse, like their nostrils flare out. So other nostril. Come up to the jawbone. The eye would be here. Neck would come in. The mane. And you can do a lot of things with the shape, but sometimes I think it looks kind of nice, especially in this version, is like a almost like, what is it, My Little Pony, where we have like the shorter legs that are kind of like rounded off, a little simpler. This one's gonna be bent. Back, you want to make sure we have the right shape of the horse's legs. They come in like that, and then longer tail. Okay, so we have unicorn and a skull. Whatever you want to draw on yours is totally up to you. You could do words. I would outline all of this, with Sharpie, especially if you're going to watercolor it, because again, that gives us like a really nice edge to paint up to and separates the watercolors nicely. So I have that. Might make these teeth bigger. And then outline my flames. Again, your pencils are a guide, so if you change it, and sometimes I feel like the flames, I don't like to overthink it. I just kind of like feel like if I move kind of quick, it feels a little more natural. Sometimes. Erase that, and then I would move into coloring. One thing with the flames, if you have, this is like with red, orange, yellow, and then I would do my classic red. We'll do red, violet. We'll start. So either way, I mean, you can use these. You can start with yellow and work to red. I like to kind of work red to yellow. So what I'm gonna do is lightly. It's kind of the red violet's like the pinkish color. I think it might be kind of neat. Block in that color first, very lightly. Take my orange, red orange, I'm going to leave that part there white because I'm going to go back with my yellow. Circles over top of that red. Go with my yellow. Applying more pressure, work circles all the way down onto like the red. Go back with your orange, light pressure up here where the yellow was, more pressure as I get closer towards the red. And go back with my red violet, and take the pink and work up with more pressure up to the orange, but stop before I get to the yellow. And then you get a really nice smooth, you know, transition and blending of colors. And that would really work with, you know, any colors as long as they're next to each other in a color wheel again. So if I did yellows, greens, and blues, you know, reds, orange, and yellows would work. Blues, purples, reds would also work. Okay. All right. Be excited to see what you guys make. Have fun with this one. All right. See you later.